Hey guys, welcome back to Home Built, and this week we are back working on the W124 barb and still trying to sort out this idling issue. Alright guys, well before we get in today, I just want to take a minute out to thank this week's video sponsor, which is EcoFlow with their Delta 2 portable power station. So this is the best value 1 kilowatt hour portable power station, and it's a must-have as a home or outdoor appliance. So this has a super long runtime and it's expandable with the extra Delta 2 batteries or the Delta Max battery expansion packs from 1 to 3 kilowatt hours. Now this has a massive output. It has 4 USB-A and then 2 USB-C outputs on this side. We have 4 AC outputs on this side. So it really has a massive capacity. You can potentially power up to 15 devices at once without overloading, up to 2200 watts of output. It's also incredibly fast charging. You can plug it into the wall and charge it from 0 to 80% in 50 minutes and 0 to 100% in around 80 minutes. You can also potentially charge it in 3 hours just from the solar with 500 watts of input. So another cool thing that EcoFlow have is they have an 800 watt alternator charger that you can get to fit to your vehicle, and you could then charge a 1 kilowatt hour battery in about 1.3 hours. Now I know, particularly as a firefighter myself, lots of people are concerned about having batteries charging at home, and these are the super stable LFP batteries, so the same ones that Tesla uses. So as far as charge cycles go, it's rated for well over 3,000 cycles, which is 6 times more than the industry average. So it also offers smart control, so you can connect it up with your Bluetooth from your phone or Wi-Fi, and via the app you can access it from anywhere and adjust your settings and sort of see the outputs and all that sort of stuff. Other benefit is it's quite light and portable, nice carry handles and nice, easy to lug around. It's about 12 kilos, so not super heavy, which is very handy, so you can take it anywhere, you can take it camping or whatever. I've actually had another EcoFlow unit for a few years now, and it has actually got me out of a bind. During the Christmas break, I had in-laws over and everybody, and we had a blackout for several hours, and we were sort of halfway through watching a movie. I just pulled it out, plugged it in, and we had power. The blackout was no issue, and a couple of hours later, the lights came back on, and the EcoFlow unit had got me out of trouble. So even if I get a blackout here, I can use the EcoFlow Delta 2 to charge my power tools. So EcoFlow are running a giant deal for Black Friday sales from the 12th to the 30th of November, with some things up to $3,500 off. So go and check them out, link in the description, and help out the guys that help out the channel. All right, let's get back to it. All right guys, welcome back. And if you have been following along, you'll know that this is Barb. This is my 1993 Mercedes 124 E220. I have had it for a couple months now, and I bought it to be a very cheap, reliable daily driver, and it's not been that. I have had an issue where the car has, the idle has gone lower and lower, and now it just won't idle at all. So when I bought the car, it was idling slightly low, particularly when it was cold, but it would sort of get better as it drove, and it still will drive okay. Now it will not idle at all. So I went through a bunch of things, as you've seen in the previous episodes. I pulled the throttle body apart and rewired the whole throttle body, and that's all working as it should, I believe. And there's been a whole bunch of suggestions about different things to check. And we have replaced the OVP relay. I think it's the over voltage protection relay. That's been replaced. But I don't want to just throw parts at it. that's the problem with these sort of jobs, is it's old, an old car, old technology, and a lot of the fixes are just, oh, try buying this part and it doesn't work, and then try buying that part. And I'm sure a lot of you have had that, and you don't want to just continually spend money on parts that might fix it. If it was the thing, I get it, but I don't just want to replace every single thing and still have a car that doesn't work. So I want to move through it systematically. That said, there was a lot of suggestions, and after doing still a lot more diving, I've spent a lot of time on old Facebook forums and things like that, sort of trying to find people who've had a similar issue with this car, or at least this type of engine management. And a lot of it does come back to airflow meters. So I found one. This is not a Bosch item. This is a cheap aftermarket airflow meter, but at least it should be able to tell me whether the one I have is the issue or not. Yes, this might not last as long, but it was like $40, and I thought, well, I'll spend that to give it a try. So first things first, let's swap this in and see if the airflow meter is going to solve my issue. So before I changed over the airflow meter, I thought I'd actually have a look at the wiring that goes to it, and I cut it open, and you can see here, you can see that that wire is just all a crumbled mess. So that is not going to be helping my issue whatsoever. So what I think I'm going to try and do is I'm going to try and cut open this wiring loom, follow it back until it at least gets out of the engine bay and see if the wiring is any better out there, and replace the parts of that wiring loom that are absolute toast, and let's try again. When I cut the wiring open there, I thought I'd go back outside of the hot engine bay, and it's still crumbling everywhere. I really think that somewhere in this crumbling wiring is part of my issue. So this is that biodegradable wiring. I took this cover off, and the wire goes all the way back over to the ECUs. So I'm going to try and replace it as far back as I can without actually having to make new plugs, etc. So let's see if we can replace some wires and fix my problem, maybe. Alright, so my plan is to strip the wires back and replace them as close to the ECU as possible. The ECU has a very sort of complicated plug that's not easy to replace, so I just want to replace as much as possible without actually having to replace the entire thing, which may be on the cards in the future depending on how this goes. I really hate Mercedes at the moment. Look at these wires. They're just total trash. So yes, I've cut it all the way back to the start of the plug, and I'm going to rewire them to the plug there, and then all the way through to as close to this loom as I can get. They're still crumbly back here, but I need to pick a spot somewhere. It's such a headache. So let's just see how it goes. So replacing the wiring is not overly complicated, it's just time consuming, and I'm just taking my time. And these are definitely a much better version than what was there with this crumbling Mercedes biodegradable wiring. Alright, well that is very annoying. So as you saw, I went through and I replaced the wiring all the way through to as close to the ECU as I could sort of get. The wiring was better. It's still cracking everywhere, but it wasn't a total crumbled mess. So there was insulation enough to separate the wires, I hope. Potentially I need to get a whole new wiring loom, but again, that's an expensive exercise and they're not quick. I think they're made to order, so it's probably going to take a couple of months for it to get here, even if I manage to order it. And it still might not be the issue. So airflow meter is knocked off of the list. Now I did find there was an outlet on, well, an outlet and inlet. There was an open port on this intake pipe. It's on the outside of the throttle body, so I don't think it made that much difference, but it was open and I did block that off as well. That also made no difference. So I'm ticking things off the list, but like I said, I don't want to just throw parts at this. I want to continue to check. One thought I'm having now is, could it be fuel related? The fuel pressure regulator and the fuel pressure itself is something that I think is probably worth checking. So let's see what we need to do that. So moving on, we know it's not the airflow meter. So going further down the rabbit hole of things it could be, particularly because it was idling badly for a while and it's gotten worse and worse. Stupidly, one of the things that I probably should have thought about a long time ago that could explain all that is the fuel filter. If the fuel filter is blocked or getting blocked, it's going to restrict the amount of fuel that's coming through, and slightly less and less fuel means that idle will be particularly bad. You might still be able to drive it at higher revs. There's still enough fuel getting through to sort of keep it going, but it's just not getting enough fuel at idle to get it to run, and that could be it. It could also be other things, the fuel pressure regulator and things like that. Easy test with fuel pressure regulator is just to pull off the vacuum line and see if any fuel is coming out. If it is, then the diaphragm is gone and it needs to be replaced. So let's have a quick look at that before we go and get a fuel filter. Dry as a bone. So I don't think that is my problem. Let's go and get a fuel filter. All right, so I've pulled off the cover underneath and you can see the fuel filter is on this side and this is the fuel pump, and that is actually looking pretty nasty. I am starting to think maybe that is my problem, so I might actually get on and order one of them as well. All right, so I've changed the fuel filter. The fuel coming out of it was filthy. It was, yeah, there was definitely a lot of muck in that filter, but changed it, started the car. It does actually feel like it's going a little bit better. It does feel like it's going a bit better, but it's still stalling. It's still not right. So I've ordered a fuel pump. We'll see. All right, well, I said it didn't work. I said the fuel filter didn't work, but I actually went and had some lunch, came back, and then I got barb warm again. When I first took off, it was struggling to idle, and I thought it wasn't working. And then once I sort of got warm, it seemed to be holding idle. It's appearing to work. I think my clogged fuel filter was a lot of the problem. Now, I still have a fuel pump on order, and I definitely think that'll be better. It's not idling nicely, but it's idling. And even in gear, before, you know, obviously there's less load when it's in park or neutral. It's currently in park and it's idling. It's a bit rough, but it's idling. I think the main problem was just a really, really, really dirty fuel filter that was restricting fuel to get into the engine, and just it was just enough that it was sort of struggling at idle. So the dirty fuel filter was a promising step in the right direction, and I went and got a new fuel pump, swapped that in, and it made no difference. So now I'm still continuing on my thoughts with the fuel, and I'm removing the fuel rail and removing the fuel injectors. And I'm going to go and see a good friend and see if we can get them cleaned up and see if they're running properly. All right, guys. Well, some of you might recognise this guy. This is Benny from Benny's Custom Works.
Ahoy.
And I've come down to his shop because he has an injector cleaner.
He's conned me into cleaning these junk Mercedes injectors for his junk Mercedes.
I can't really argue that point, but we'll run them through the machine. It's all nice and clean at the moment, so let's see how much gunk is in them and if they actually flow.
How bad they actually are.
Yeah.
They don't look horrendous. I might actually flow them first.
Yep.
Then we'll put them in a cleaning bath and then we'll flow them again and see what they look like as a before and after. Because you may find that one of these is like 50% blocked and that's why your idle issues all over the shop.
If that's it, I'm praying for that because that would then be my problem. So we set the injectors up in the injector cleaner and did an initial run before cleaning just to see a baseline. And to be honest, they all seem to be running reasonably close together. There's not enough difference to really show our problem. But either way, we put them in the ultrasonic bath and give them a good clean. All right, well, that definitely cleaned them up a lot. This fluid is filthy now, so let's run them again and see if they flow anymore. All right, so we run them again, and you can see that they're better and they're all closer together, but there's still no marked difference, and I don't think this is our issue. All right, well, we have some clean injectors. They didn't actually seem to make a lot of difference. They all seem to flow reasonably consistent. They're a little bit better, but
the results are inconclusive.
Yes, there's nothing that's pointing to these, so let's put them back in and see how it goes. Thank you very much to Benny. Make sure you check out Benny's Custom Works channel, and we'll get back to it.
Have fun.
With some rubber grease, I reinstalled the injectors, making sure that they have got a good seal in the fuel rail. And then I go through and start changing out the spark plugs. Who knows when the last time they were done, and it's a relatively cheap, easy thing to change and check. Analysing the plugs, they look old. They look like they haven't been changed in a long time. So we'll see if this could be our issue. All right, well, I am not an expert at reading spark plugs, but these plugs do not look that crash hot. If it'll focus on them. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure how the injectors will go. I don't know whether they're going to make a huge difference, but I'm hoping that the combination injectors and spark plugs fixes my problem. So one way to find out, let's start it and see if it works. Still no. Still doesn't fix it. Ah! I'll keep plugging away, but yeah, this is tedious. It's very, very, very tedious. I have tried almost everything, but obviously not everything because it's still not fixed. Grr! All right, where do we stand with Barb? So I've gone through and I've done the airflow meter and the wiring. No joy. Fuel filter made a big difference, but it's still not completely fixed. Barb will idle, not very well, but will idle once warm. I did the fuel pump, brand new fuel pump in there. That was not the issue, made no difference. The fuel pressure regulator is not leaking or anything like that, so I believe it's probably fine. Change the spark plugs, clean the injectors, all of that is all updated. It's got a clean air filter and all those sort of things. So I'm sort of starting to narrow it down that there's not a lot more that could be wrong with it. I want to recheck the wiring from the throttle body to the ECU. That could be an issue because the throttle body we know is working. I went through and checked all of the resistances and everything, so I'm still tearing my hair out. Besides the poor idle, once you're actually driving, Barb drives fine. My commute to work is on a freeway at sort of 110, and it's nice and easy. It's not a problem. Barb will cruise at that, and everything else is working as it should. It's just that idle. So anyway, hopefully you enjoyed this update on Barb. Not finished. but we will keep following it up, and I'll let you know how we go. So do the things like subscribe, all that sort of stuff. Join me on Patreon to watch the videos a day before everybody else, and I'll see you on the next one. See you guys.